You're in charge, buddy.
Seeing that it's 10 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I anticipate the chair will be here momentarily, but as the vice chair, I will go ahead at this point and call it to order. So we'll start with the roll call. Sheriff?
Sheriff Tommy Johnson III present.
Rick Warren?
Carrie Hudson for Marissa Treat.
Jason Lowe present.
Butch Freeman?
Paul Foster for Miles Davidson.
Mike Morrison for Larry Stein, and this being a special meeting, Larry had already had other commitments, or otherwise he would be here today.
Okay. Okay, notice that this meeting was properly posted on March the 11th, 2026. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner, would you mind leading us, please?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
And having done such an incredible job doing but the part that I just did at this point, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Mon.
Beautifully done.
Beautifully done. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Is there a motion to approve the minutes, February 19th?
Motion approved.
I
Second.
apologize.
All in favor,
It's-
say aye.
I
Aye.
apo-
Aye.
I apologize.
Oh, and it's also March 3rd and 6th.
Yes, yes, sir.
That included in your motion?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any individual consideration on the consent docket?
You do have number 38 in front of you. I apologize, that's later on the agenda. Thank you.
Is there a motion for the consent docket?
Motion approved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Our monthly financial report.
Mr. Foster, may I get your vote, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. So here's a capture of February's activity. Going straight into your general fund budget. Going to talk about the general fund reserve. At the end of February, we had $9,821,509. There are a few BET recommendations today that will impact that available budget. The next page is just showing the activity that has proceeded or taken place, up to February. Jumping over to your general fund budget analysis. That first green line for $106 million is capturing your year-to-date total revenue that has been collected so far. Going on down to your cash balance of $54 million. That was what was captured. 54 million is the cash on hand as of February. Jumping over to your general fund actual comparison, this is comparing your 24-25 fiscal year to your 25-26. The first green is going to be your 3.8 million total revenue collected for the month of February of 26. Looks like we had a decrease compared to 25's fiscal year budget by 6.5%. And then your total collected in February shows you that 3.8. And then your cash on hand as of February is still that 54 that was showing, just showing you the reconciliation between the two. On over to your employee benefits. Employee benefits ended their February cash on hand at $2.5 million. Total expenses at that time was $29 million. John will come up here in a little bit to talk about the employee benefits comparison, and give you more details on that. On over to the last slide, the capital projects, looking at your unallocated funds at 1.2 million. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns about the February activity? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. This report details claims paid through February versus last fiscal year at the same point. For medical, we're at 16% over versus last fiscal year. If you remember prior months, we were running from 20 to 25%, so those are looking a little better now. Prescriptions are down 13%. And of course, the county pharmacy has increased those costs, and that means they're filling claims and getting reimbursements. Last fiscal year, we started the county pharmacy in February. We had $58,000 worth of claims. We're up to $465,000 this February, so that's just running prescriptions through. Overall, on a gross basis, we're 18% over where we were last fiscal year at this point. Good news is we received reimbursements that are taken off those expenses to a tune of an increase of $4.8 million, and that's directly related to county pharmacy and prescription rebates. If you take those reimbursements off expenses, we're about 1% under where we were last fiscal year at this point.
Questions of Mr. Wilkerson? Thank you, sir. Thank you. Cody?
Good morning. We've got a few changes to the document this month. We got a couple of recommendations. I believe it's items 40 and 41 on your agenda today, which are recommendations for transfers over to the Criminal Justice Authority. Those are notated in the recommendation column on here. We have also added an item just as a watch list item for employee benefits, as well as a couple items for juvenile for some salary and benefit dollars. We're going to track those three items the next couple months and kind of see where we're at, but those are just on there for tracking purposes right now. So those are the only changes. Like I said, we do have the two recommendations, items 40 and 41, and I'll be happy to address those a little more in detail when those come up on the agenda.
Questions, Mr. Compton? Okay. Is there anyone here today to give the update from the jail trust? Mr. Scobie?
Is there anyone here from the jail trust? Okay, thank you, Reverend.
Chairman's here too. The chairman is here also. Oh. Does anyone have questions of the jail trustees that are present?
I don't have at this time, but when I do present my motion, I will.
Okay, if there's no questions of the trustees. Item 38. This was the discussion about the Jewel funds that we had available. Jessica?
So this item is just to be able to move the Jewel Fund interest into two separate accounts, so that way we can track the Jewel interest versus the opioid interest separately for future reporting.
Chairman, we also have a page to receive for this one, that there was a cost center update.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Is there a motion to receive this in front of you?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now is there action on item 38?
Mr. Freeman, may I get your vote, please? Thank you, sir.
There, anybody want to discuss item 38? Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Item 39, Mr. Compton.
All right. I had mentioned those other two items are 40 and 41. 39 is just kind of a landscape view of what items 40 and 41 consists of. So 39 is an agenda item discussing specifically what our recommendation is. We looked at some different funding sources, looked at some of the information that they brought forward. There's still quite a bit of questions. There was some discrepancy between some information we received from the CFO versus information that was released from other members of their organization publicly. So we're trying to get a handle on exactly where those numbers are. So there was a motion and a second, and it passes a recommendation to start the process off with a recommendation to transfer some dollars from general fund reserve to the jail trust to be able to get them through the end of the fiscal year. It mentions in here Jewel settlement funds. That's something that VOCC has already taken up, but we did want to recognize that in the motion that was made because that would be reflective of some additional dollars that they're getting from the county this fiscal year. So this is just a kind of an overview, like I said, of what our recommendation is. Specifically, the two different transfer recommendations are in items 40 and 41.
When you add the Jewel fund, so your total you're recommending is $2,326,000, correct?
That's what is that's the combination of our recommendations in items 40 and 41. The difference between that 2,326,000 and the 2,654,000 are the Jewel funds.
Okay,
So
that was where I was trying to get to. So with the Jewel funds, it gets it to what?
if this board were to approve items 40 and 41 today, then that combined with the Jewel dollars that have already been approved by BOCC, that would be an increase in cash to the jail for this fiscal year of $2,654,713.
Have we figured out why we are in this situation?
No, sir.
And you still have a lot of questions that you want answered. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you concerned that we're about to transfer over $2 million and we haven't figured out why we are here?
Well, that's a little difficult because my role standing here is representing BET as a whole, and BET as a whole made the recommendation. So I think I would say that they were comfortable. The group, it was not unanimous, so not everybody on that board is comfortable doing it at this time. However, a majority were. So I would say a majority of BET is comfortable with the $2,326,000 transfer at this time. I'm not saying that me personally or every single member of that group was comfortable with that, but it was enough to be able to get the vote in the positive, in the affirmative for the recommendation.
Is there a deadline when we have to actually provide these funds to the jail?
So the official date that we've been given is May the 1st. I've heard rumors of some date next week, March 21st, March 22nd, about, the process of layoffs beginning. That's been an unofficial, just kind of a rumor that I've heard. So I asked that specifically, and others have talked about it in the BET meeting, to their CFO, and their CFO seemed surprised by that conversation and assured us that May the 1st was the actual deadline that we were looking at when they would run out of funds and they need something to them by May the 1st. So I don't know. I mean, there were comments made by the administrator that were different than the information that we got from the CFO, the information that he relayed in the trust meeting versus what we got in our BET meeting. So there's several things still up in the air.
Wouldn't you agree that the jail or the individuals that work at the jail or employed by the jail, they're top heavy?
I think that it would be a fair assessment to say there are some concerns on where allocation of resources have been made.
And
Commissioner, I'll just say, it's hard for me to answer that because I feel like the role that I'm in this very moment and what my responsibility is to speak on behalf of BET and not myself. And there's some situations that I may have a differing opinion personally than what the vote was. And I'm here to advocate for BET's recommendation, whether I personally am in favor of it or not. So that it's kind of difficult for me to answer that from a personal perspective,
Well,
if that makes sense.
maybe I should ask you on a personal level. Wouldn't you agree that our DOs are very important?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't you also agree that when we need to fix economic problems, we just don't need to throw money at it and hope that it's fixed? We need to figure out why we're in this situation, one. Two, we also need to look at the books and look at the numbers and make sure that we're not in this situation the following year. Because right now we're in a $5 million deficit. Next year, if we don't know why we're here, we could be in a deficit of 7 million, 9 million, 10 million. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. If you do not ascertain what the true problem is, that you put off until tomorrow a even bigger problem than what you have today.
Could I use the statement that was just used by the commissioner to look at the books? Have you had the opportunity to work with the jail, with the management of the jail, to look at their books?
They have been invited to every single BET meeting. They show up sometimes. They don't show up sometimes. There's logistically we try to make sure that that we work around their schedules. We had one that their finance staff couldn't be here because our meeting was at 9 o'clock.
So is
and
that a
they
no?
don't work until 9. So
Is that a no? You have not had the opportunity to work with them and look at their books?
they have presented documents to us, but those documents are questionable. It's been hard for us to ascertain because we get an answer one day and then we'll get an answer from somebody else on the leadership team in another meeting, and they're completely contradictory. There's a couple, well, there's actually 3 individuals sitting up there today that are on that group, and I think I think that's a fair statement. We consistently get inconsistent information, and that's troubling to try to figure out what the actual problem is. And that is, we've spent many hours working on this problem, and it not being solved yet is not due to a lack of willingness on BET's part to try to do our level best to help facilitate answers to the problem.
Did BET?
I think that's.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did BET submit questions? I think I heard that BET submitted a series of questions. I believe it was 17 to the jail trust. Was there a response from that?
There has not been a response from that.
And those questions, I guess, what vein were they in? Just simple budgetary questions asking about different pay areas. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah. For instance, how much are you how much do you anticipate a certain expense, like let's say DOs, salaries for detention officers? What do you expect those expenditures to be through the rest of the fiscal year? And then how much money do you have available that you will be able to spend to meet that need? That way, if we know what what their anticipated total expense is versus how much money they have that they will have available to meet that need, then we can just do simple arithmetic and look and see what that difference is and add the differences up in some different categories. We're just trying to scramble to figure out the best way to get some solid information. But this isn't. We are in a little bit of a unique situation, but BET has had issues getting consistent, accurate information for quite some time. It precedes this year and the current administration and the current finance team. This has been going on for a while.
Cody, being a member of that group, I know that there was a list of questions. I'm guessing those are the same ones that we're just discussing. There's been no update, even as of this morning, at this point in time. Nothing has changed with the list of questions. Is that correct?
That is correct. I didn't even get a received message on the, after I sent the email. I did address that with the CFO in our meeting to make sure. So that's the only correspondence that I've received, was whenever I asked the question in the meeting whether they received the questions, and that was affirmative. They have received them, so we do know that because they answered that specifically in the meeting. But other than that, it's been crickets.
And if we were to reject this item today, this agenda item, do you believe we have more time to revisit this issue and to provide the funds to the jail?
The CFO, when we talked about these numbers at our last meeting, which was the end of last week, the CFO reassured us that May the 1st was their drop dead date.
So to clarify, if we were to reject this item, we can come back before May the 1st and provide the requisite funds to the jail.
Based upon the information that the CFO has given us. But once again, there's inconsistencies, in their leadership team. We'll hear one thing from one person and one thing from somebody else. Who is correct? I don't know, but the CFO did make that statement.
But the clarification on May 1st, that's the day they are completely out of money by their statement, right? They'll run them all the way through their entire cash allotment that they have on hand. So if we waited till May 1st to do anything and didn't do anything, then they'd have to lay off everybody.
Well, that was brought up and asked, and the CFO once again said, "I'm not aware of a layoff date next week." Is that a fair statement, Guy?
I'm talking about May 1st.
So,
not next week. I'm talking about if you waited and didn't do anything on May 1st, at that point, they've completely exhausted all their available funds, correct?
I don't know. We're still in the analysis of looking at this, Commissioner. I don't think we have a true depiction and understanding exactly where we're at, to be frank.
But with 60 days left, there wouldn't be very much time for them to pull up from the nosedive and offset that to balance their books by the end of June 30. Correct? I mean, that's the end of the fiscal year. And so if the budget board didn't act today and then doesn't act again on the later date, whatever day it is, and then they run completely out of whatever they have, there's no way to offset it if they don't start laying off now.
Well, I believe we were in this time period, if not even a little bit later in the fiscal year, a couple years ago, when the trust was telling us they were going to be $2.75 million short, weren't going to be able to make it. And not only did they make it through that fiscal year, they lapsed dollars to be able to increase their budget for that next fiscal year. So I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that I can't answer that with assurance because I don't feel like I have a true picture of what their outlook is.
And I don't.
And that's just my personal opinion. That's not anything on BET. Our recommendation is to allocate resources at this
I
time.
believe we presented a question if there was a pending crisis regarding layoffs, and that was nothing that they could answer to. There was no knowledge of those individuals in the room at that time, from what I remember in that meeting.
Yes, sir.
That question was presented to them.
I don't personally have a problem with your recommendation. I think it's a well thought out, a well discussed recommendation. I do have issues and a problem in, we're all in this boat together, and I'm speaking specifically now to the jail management. We are all part of the same county. We got to come to it. We got to work together to solve this problem. And I think we will, because we have no alternative. And again, I think that I don't have a problem with your recommendation. And in fact, I would be supporting it when we get to the point to where we vote. But I do have a problem in that we just don't seem to want to work together. And I do have a problem with that. I really do. And I guess I'm trying to throw this mostly at the jail management, because we got to sit down. We got to work together. I think that we probably realize that we're gonna have to do some fund assistance, additional dollars. Again, I'll go back to your 2.6, your recommendation. And what I'd like to see personally happen is we fund the 2.6 today with the caveat, you got to help us. You got to do something to help us. Take some, I know they've already taken some as far as on some contracts, my understanding. And we got to work together on this, and they really need I personally to take the lead on it. We're helping what we can. 2.6 would be a great help,
Well,
I would think.
to your point on the contracts, that's one of the inconsistencies and the issues at hand. The administrator said in the trust meeting last week that they were going to send 30-day notices on a couple of contracts to save X amount of dollars. I think it's almost $800,000 through the rest of the fiscal year on those two contracts. Then when the CFO comes in last week and was presenting information to us at a $5 million clip, contracts. And the question was asked, well, I thought you guys were looking at canceling these contracts. Oh, we don't know anything about that. Well, not that they didn't know anything about it, but they didn't know that that was a decision that was final and that was going to be made. So those dollars, they were still asking for the dollars for those contracts in their current request. And it's like the administrator says one thing in a jail trust meeting, the CFO that's in charge of knowing the ins and outs of those dollars has a completely different knowledge base in there based upon the questioning that's asked. It becomes problematic. And back to Commissioner Lowe's question earlier, where is the actual problem?
Yeah, and I think everyone here wants to fully fund the jail, and that's what we've been doing. But I'm just not going to give you $2 million and then you just like, hey, it's going to give you $2 million and you're not going to tell me why you need $2 million or why you are in this particular position. I think that's irresponsible. If we were to vote for that, as far as a board, not to have the answers we need. The taxpayers need to know why we are in this position. This is taxpayer money. This is not our personal funds. The taxpayers need to have all of the answers, and we cannot provide those answers. And we're just going to shell out $2 million and not ask questions? That's insane to me. That's insane, and that's irresponsible on our part if we move forward with this. We need answers. The taxpayers need answers.
And I think, Mr. Freeman, to your point about teamwork, I think the collaboration has certainly been there. I have tuned into every BET meeting, as long as they are, and as many as have been, and there have been good questions and good dialogue. I think in the thought, like, how can we help? But I have seen time and time again where it was, hey, can you look into this? And then the next meeting, that information is not provided. So, when they say, hey, will you go seek this information out so we can have a better, frame of mind how to address this, then they come back, that question's not answered. And then we talk about the questions that were written to the jail, that hasn't been responded to. And so I don't think the collaboration is certainly on BET side. I think they made a monumentous effort to try to make this happen.
I concur with that.
Okay, is there further discussion? On item 39. If not, there's an action item of item 40.
Okay, so as you guys probably recall, a few years ago, we split our reserve into two different categories, ongoing dollars and one-time dollars, because we've got money in there from some ARPA interest as well as some money that the sheriff's office. We won't be getting those dollars in the future, so we want to make sure when we're recommending additional funding for certain things that we know whether we're going to have the dollars in the future to sustain ongoing operations. If we're giving money for something that's going to be needed the next year and the next year after that and the next year after that, we want to make sure that we're using dollars that we're comfortable are going to be available in future fiscal years versus, for instance, a capital expense. If somebody needs a one-time purchase, then we can use some of those one-time dollars for. So that being said, our recommendation, that little over $2.3 million, is broken out into two different recommendations. Item 40 is a recommendation of $1,266,914 coming out of one-time funds. So those would not those are dollars that are not available moving forward. Those won't be replaced. That's a diminishing of those dollars. So that's the recommendation. That's half of the recommendation is a transfer from general fund reserve, the one-time dollar category of $1,266,914.
Well, it seems to me that these items are out of order then. I mean, if we approve, for example, if we approve 39, well, it includes 40 and 41, so then we wouldn't have to address those?
Well, 40 and 41 are your action items for
Yeah, 39
the
was
items that were
discussion.
discussed in 39. 39 was just more of a discussionary item, and then 40 and 41 are the actual action items based upon the conversations that were had in 39.
So you're telling me then we shouldn't be voting on 39?
We've already skipped it. We're on item 40.
Well, we just skipped it because 39 was up there until a few seconds ago.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But we're here for the action item on item 40.
Okay, so the discussion for the 2654 at this point, we're not discussing that anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless you want to go back.
Well, the point I'm making is, okay, go ahead. The point I'm making is, if you approve 39, you don't have to worry about 40 and 41, or else you're going to get the money. But all right, go ahead. I'd prefer to take them separate, frankly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was what was anticipated, that they may be wanted to be taken separately. That's why we divided this up into the three different items to give you some flexibility.
Okay, go back to item 39.
31?
39.
Yeah, that's another thing too. If we do vote and approve 40 and 41, you're still not up to your 2.6.
Yeah, the 2.6 includes the jewel dollars that BOCC has already recommended. The only reason why that is in there is so it's a memorialization of the total amount that would be transferred over as far as additional dollars to the jail. So this was just more of a 30,000 foot discussion of the recommendation, and then the specifics of the recommendation and the action would be the next two items 40 and 41.
Mr. Chairman, I'll say that I believe there has been some mixed messaging to BET from jail management. I believe that wholeheartedly. I also believe that there needs to be some continued investigation, collaboration, and direction to ensure that this doesn't happen again in future FYs. But as far as this 2.654713 goes, I believe this would, if not partially, if not fully, enable the jail to fulfill their constitutional duties that they need to provide for the remainder of the FY.
Well, I mean, with that being said, I'm not sure we know what that is because it hasn't been broken out as to what's constitutional, what are contracts, what each body of money is going to. It's kind of all coupled together, just out of one big pot. It doesn't appear as if it's broken out so that can be discussed or that can be looked at. And, and frankly, when I don't have a hard time with helping people out because we've done that on this board time and time again. But I do feel like we're rewarding bad behavior. We all have budgets that we have to stay within. And, everybody comes at, the beginning of the year understanding what our budget is. And that fiscal year, we work within that. And unfortunately, there's things I think we would all like to do that we can't. And so to say, hey, we're just going to give you more money when one, you cannot tell us why you need it. You haven't found out why you're in a deficit yet. You can't tell us the different areas that the money is coming from or the different areas that you're needing money in, determining whether they're constitutional or not. I think we're kind of shooting in the dark and just sending more money over without the understanding of what it is actually going to, even if we put an asterisk on it to determine that. I don't think they would understand that at this point in time.
Not only that, but in their indenture on page 6, in case we're not responsible and haven't read it, on page 6, it states that the budget board has the final decision. We make the final decision, so they have the same duty to come to us as every other office. If they're going outside their budget, they need to come here and talk to us about it, which they have not done. They need to come here and lay it out and say, if my budget is this, I'm going to be over my budget by $100,000, $1, $1 million, and come and let us address it so we can handle the taxpayers' dollars properly. Just to throw numbers at us and expect us to throw money back, it doesn't work that way. And so they are held accountable by this budget. We are a budget board county, and this budget board controls that indenture. On page 6, the final decision is made by this group right here, not by that jail, not by that trust. We've seen how they vote. 2 people sometimes can run the whole show. Here, it takes all of us.
I do think one positive that has come out of all of this, one thing that I know others on BET have asked in the past, is for the trust to actually pass a budget themselves each fiscal year, which is something that, shouldn't sound odd, but it's never happened. And the trust took action on their most recent meeting to say that that is something that they are going to be doing in the future, is actually adopting a budget, which I think is a good move forward.
A right step forward, but doesn't solve the problem today.
No, sir.
And there was some acknowledgement too, I think, by the financial team that using the actual number versus the forecasted number was not the way to run a budget.
Yeah, that question was asked many times. Paul, I don't know how many times he brought it up, but it was basically the statement that you knew you were going to be short in the beginning of the way. You said you were going to be short in the beginning of the year. You're making changes now. Why didn't you make changes in the beginning of the year to try to address it so that you weren't, to Commissioner Mon's point earlier, trying to fix this problem with 60 days left? You were trying to fix it with 11 plus months left, and that did not seem to have happened and occurred. And I think you had pointed that out quite frequently.
All right, do you have any more discussion on item 39? Any others?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pastor Scobie.
So at the BET meeting, I believe February the 26th, Administrative Kim Ray, when asked by Cody who gave these raises, where they approved, in essence, there's videos all around, you can look at it. In essence, who approved it? It was stated right here at this lectern by the jail administrator that the trust approved the raises back in December. This was stated. But I believe we have all continued to hear that the January 12th vote for the Oklahoma County Trust to indefinitely pause pay raises, so January the 12th, that it was stated that these detention center officers, their raises were discussed somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then on January the 9th, it was communicated to the detention officers that a raise was coming 3 days before a vote was placed on the agenda for the trust members to decide. Well, they had already given those raises. Now, January 12th, we get to vote, and we said we'll pause. And then on February the 23rd, the Oklahoma County Clerk's Office received the document for these raises that were supposedly given on January 9th, but we said no on January 12th. My point is this: 42 days later, they had plenty of time to tell us we've already communicated to the detention officers they're going to get a raise. So does this raise the raises you all are saying pause on? Do these also count towards the ones we've already given? Do we need to pause those as well? We didn't get that opportunity. So the decision was made between the jail administrator and the chairman of the jail trust. Two people made that decision. So now we, as a trust, we are standing here. In essence, we have been discussing we need more money. So now BET, they're saying, I know it's not Cody personally, that we need to give this money. Here's the problem, a whole bunch of problems. Back in June, the Paul Timmons, he said there was a $5.8 million budget gap. Well, that turned out not to be true, per him, a little bit later. And then as trust members, we were lambasted all around Oklahoma County that we were the boys who cried wolf. And in essence, the sky wasn't falling. So now we're coming saying we need more money. But the question becomes why? Why do we need more money? Because you all don't know if we need more money. And the proof has been in the pudding that we have made do with what we had. We've continued to make do. Do I think ultimately the detention center needs more money? I do believe that. But just to come to you all now saying we need this 2.6 million, you don't know. Does anyone up there know how much money we need? That's my question. Does anyone know? So in good conscience, you're going to vote to give us $2.6 million. And you're going to have to look into the faces of the Oklahoma County residents and tell them when you are up for reelection, if you are, you're going to have to stand before them and answer the question why you gave $2.6 million of our money to the Oklahoma County Jail and you had no clue what we needed the money for. If my children came to me and said they needed money, my daughter reached out. She said, I need $1,700 because she had 2 wisdom teeth that needed to be pulled and a cavity. I'm not just going to give $1,700 to my children, but when my daughter tells me she needs it for a specific reason, then I'm giving it. So here we come saying we need this, but we can't tell you why. I continue to say this, and I know people don't like it, and I'm coming back if Commissioner Lowe asks me to come back here probably in 30 minutes. I've continued to say this as I look over this podium. I know what political party each of you ran on. It's only one Democrat. My statement with that is, I look around, you all are conservatives. I'm fiscally conservative. You are conservative. You're fiscally conservative. If you all vote and approve this, honest to goodness, I would be very disappointed because I look up to each and every one of you. I really do. And I believe that you have the citizens of Oklahoma County, the best interest in heart for the citizens of Oklahoma County, and that you all are not throwing money away. I don't know that you don't throw money away in your own home. I don't know that, but I believe that you don't throw money away. You run on platforms saying you're fiscally conservative. The sheriff is as transparent as I don't know what as it relates to, I don't know if it's every month or quarterly, that he gives a detail as he goes over the budget of how much was spent, what it was spent on, almost down to I'll say down to the $100. So I would be really completely, totally disappointed if you approve this and you don't know what it's for. You don't know what it's for. Now, when I go back and sit down and somebody makes a motion to move forward with this and somebody, quote unquote, properly seconded it, it's not proper. It's not right. And okay, if nothing else, we're saying May 1st. May 1st. Well, postpone. Postpone it. You don't have a clue. I sat and watched in a BET meeting the jail administrator be asked about some specific dollar amounts going wherever they were going. He said that I'll get that information to you and would come back the following week. You know who came back the following week? So that was at the lectern. The following week, it was in the room. The following week, the chairman of the jail trust came back. And you know what he said? Because we've been saying a lot of facts and not facts. You know what he said? Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to have all this. I would venture to say the chairman of the trust and the jail administrator talk minimum 3-4 times a week. But he didn't know. And then you know what, in essence, he said? That we'll get that information and bring it back. So please tell me when it has come to you. I'm pleading with you all. The only time you have, typically when I'm doing this, you know I'm pretty much shouting from the rooftop. Am I shouting? No, I'm pleading with you. It is wrong to approve this. It's wrong as me as an Oklahoma County resident. It's wrong for you to do that.
Pastor May, I had a long conversation with you last week on the phone, and
Hour and 27 minutes.
yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. No, I'm not. It's not a belittle. I mean, I was talking just like you were talking.
Hour and a half of your life you'll never get back.
No,
right?
It was enjoyable. It was enjoyable.
But just to, we had talked about there being need before. I get the argument about the raises and not the raises, but as a trustee, did you not think there was a gap at all throughout this year, like a budget shortfall for where we didn't give enough for just basic operations? Like, I mean, you told me you didn't really feel like there was much area left to cut in terms of staffing. So you need some level of funding to have what you've got now, or am I characterizing that correctly?
Absolutely. I'm a preacher, so we come up with all type of analogies, illustrations. Yes, Aaliyah, my daughter. Okay, you need $1,328.23 to pay for this cavity and these two wisdom teeth removed. Yes, Dad, that's what I need. Okay, Leah, what's the other $332.28 for? Well, so yeah, it's a gap. But Aaliyah, I need to know why you need this money. Oh, I need it for this, for the wisdom teeth, for the cavities. Yeah, but I need to know what the amount is because I'm going to pay it over the phone with my debit card. I need to know the amount. You all don't know the amount. So yes, it's a gap. But here's the other problem. Again, it was supposedly a gap back then, and then we find out that's not the case. But here's the other thing. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, I was under the impression when we finished the jail trust meeting last Monday, I did not want the jail administrator to be terminated nor anything else. I didn't want the chair to resign. But I stand here today knowing now that the administrator lied because it's on video. He lied. He needs to be terminated immediately. And the other guy, the chairman, has continued to lie. This is my question. I don't know why I want to ask Rick Warren this question. January the 9th, you say that you communicated to 101 detention officers that they were getting a raise. January 12th, the board, they vote to pause raises indefinitely, okay? And then on February the 23rd, it's stamped in the Oklahoma County Clerk's office. Would you tell me legally when those raises were put into place?
First of all, those raises only happen once they're given. Just promising a raise is not a raise. Therefore, when you voted not to give the raise, all raises stop, including anything that might have been promised, anything that might happen just because you've been there 9 months or 6 months. All raises stop because you have a trust, a board. That word is very important, trust. And you represent the county taxpayers, you represent us. You work for the county in a way, you serve us. Those raises should not have been given. Anything after that vote, anything promised before does not count unless it was given. If you had promised it a year earlier that on 2 years service, you're going to get a raise, raises have been frozen. Now, I would share that with my employees and let them know all raises have stopped for right now. And we'll get back to it when we have the finances. But I actually, after going through all this, after talking BET, putting my chief deputy on BET, wanting more answers, I'm not sure the trust nor the jail has the capability of finding me true numbers. That's my concern. We've asked for numbers, and I'll be honest, I don't know if they have a staff member who's capable of putting a budget together. I'm not seeing anything. Grown men, when you get our age, sorry doesn't fix it. When you tell a lie, you just mislead people. Sorry doesn't fix it. You leave a job, somebody loses. And when two people are running a trust of good, honest citizens, that's not the way it was set up. That trust no longer is functioning like it should be.
That is correct, Mr. Warren. And
I gave you the long answer.
well, no, thank you. The detention officers, so here was the quote unquote fear that if they did not get a raise, then they would leave. Okay, I get it. But 101 people are not going to walk out the door.
Once again, I think they have a hard job. I think they have a tough job. But when they come over here, I mean, starting salaries, it's all public record. We don't hide things. My group starts at around $39,000 a year. That's what they start at. I think the jail at the time they gave the raises was at 41, 42. They took them to 47. I would love them to make that kind of money starting pay. I would love it. But that's not the way it works. Around here, I had the lowest paid people. So I put together a step program, a program that took years. I got my fellow Lexus to join me in that, and they set up so that I could give raises to catch up with everybody else. We're still in the lowest paid group, but I don't break the rules. I don't take it upon myself. We have a budget board. I follow those directions. I follow the law. I follow the statutes, and that's what, unfortunately, the head of your trust needs to understand that.
Last question, and I'll come back as Commissioner Lowe instructs me. Last question I have, Mr. Warren. Would you give raises to 101 people unilaterally, or would you bring it before somebody?
I would bring it before somebody. I don't have the money in my budget to give raises, just let's use the word
and you're an
willy-nilly.
elected official.
I'm
you are paid by the citizens of
Yes.
Oklahoma County, and you would not give raises.
I set up raises every year based on my budget. I have a certain way to give raises. In my budget, I have the money for a certain amount. I don't go over that. I don't go outside my budget. At the end of the year, I expect to give some money back. I will stay with it. If something happens unforeseen, then I will come before this board. If I'm going to transfer money from one department to another, I come here and ask permission.
As an
They're on the
elected
same. The budget board
official.
makes the decision for them to own their finances.
An elected official, that is what you do.
With 10 years service, yes, I
And
would
you
still do
work
that.
for the citizens of Oklahoma County.
Yes, sir, I
Well,
do.
this chair, he is under the impression that an administrator has the authority to give raises to 101 people without permission from a board. And this person is only paid staff, not an elected official. And he has the authorization to give raises to 101 people. Um, that seems like a major problem to me. And then they both lied about it. And I have proof, and everybody now has seen, they've seen these videos. And I mean, really, now they may be AI generated on the website.
I was here at that meeting. I saw that.
I'm
And
not
the chair is one man, and like this chair here, he has one vote, I have one vote.
I would just ask that this board would pause. I don't know the proper term, table, pause, whatever, but not call for a vote today until you get some concrete numbers from the jail trust. And I'm under the impression you never will under this leadership, because they have lied once, they will lie again. So
I don't know if I got an answer or not. Did you think that there was a shortfall at the beginning of this fiscal year, like you've been operating without enough to get through June 30 from the very beginning, regardless of the race? I'm talking about before that.
Yes, until the acting administrator, CEO administrator. We do understand that Kim Ray is not the CEO. He is the administrator. We separated those duties under Steve Buck. So yes, I did, until the acting CEO administrator said it was a blunder and we did not have a $5.8 million shortfall, and that was communicated here and all throughout the media. So I very rarely change my mind, but with new information comes new decisions. And I had new information after, quote unquote, the blunder was made. So therefore, no. Yes, a gap. I think it was a gap. I think of 400 and some odd thousand. Final thing, if I knew, if they would have come to me or the trust and said, hey, we had already given these raises. We had already told them we were giving these raises. So now this is where, Mr. Warren, you and I probably would disagree, but here's my blue personality, pastoral, soft, gentle personality. I would have said, guys, why did you do that? They would have told me. I say, hey, don't ever do that again, but I'm going to ride with you, because I am not going to pull the carpet out from under those detention officers, because one of them might have gone and purchased a new car because their old car was breaking down, but now they have the money to pay the payment. I would not do them that way. But that is if somebody would have told us.
Reverend Scobie, did you know that since July, you're 36% over your budget?
I did not know.
That's an approximation, but it's right at 36%. Since
I have a question too, if you don't mind.
Yes.
First of all, I want to say I appreciate you so much. I really do. But I do have a question in regards, did the board make this request of this $5 million loss, or that we're losing, or is that provided or done by someone other than the board?
In June 2025, there was a request that was made, led by Mr. Paul Timmons. And then at that time, I believe Chairman Steve Buck, he put it on the agenda. But Steve Buck is the type of person, just because he put something on the agenda, he's not saying I support it. He's just, it was asked to be put on the agenda and he did it. But that's where that 5.8 million came from, that request.
Mr. Compton?
Well, I think procedurally, when I mentioned earlier about the trust adopting a budget now being a positive step forward, I think procedurally Mike brings up an interesting point that he and I have talked about this before, and others. These dollar amounts have not come to BET or the county from the trust itself. It's from their staff. It's not from the trust. We've got two trust members sitting up there that have indicated that they don't know what the full number is for sure, and what's happened. And you've got another trust member that just stood up here and said basically the same thing. I think it is, to Mike's point, something that in the future or the present, I mean, whatever you guys want to do, but in the future, for sure, any request like this probably should come from the trust itself and not employees of the trust, unless the trust were to. I think the trust needs to make that decision and then, empower their folks to carry forward with their mission.
Pastor, just a couple more questions, if you don't mind. So is it your intent to rescind those? Are you going to motion to rescind those raises, or you're not?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And then you're indicating you're going to attempt to fire Mr. Kimry?
Okay, attempt, I don't know if that would be the right term. I am going to call for his resignation, and I am going to request that it be put on the agenda for that. And I do believe that I will get a second.
And you don't know, do you believe that if this funding doesn't happen, that there are going to be plans for any layoffs? Is that a trust decision, or is that an administrator decision?
I'm glad you asked that. The raises that we were concerned about losing staff. Okay, we gave those raises. They gave the raises. We were concerned about losing staff, but then over here we are concerned about not being able to pay staff. That is a problem. Please ask the end of that question one more time, because I want to make sure I answer it.
I just wondered if you knew if there were, well, the question I think I posed was about, is it a trust decision to lay off, or is it an administrator position to lay off based on balancing the budget? Do you know, in your opinion?
Well, per the indenture, if he were the CEO, I believe he could make that decision at that high of a level. But being that he's the administrator, and then the fact that constitutionally it could pose a problem, then he would need to bring that before the board, because there could be a lawsuit filed. There could be something worse than that. So I do agree with Cody, and thank you for that. And I would say it is this board's absolute responsibility to pause this, to table this today. And here's the why: we didn't ask for it. We have the staff of a restaurant. I don't want to call it a restaurant that I'm thinking about, but we have the staff going to whomever that is saying, you need to give us raises, and you skip the person that's in this middle level, and you go all the way to, because I mean, you all make the final decision, as you said, page 6. So they didn't, let me tell you who they did confer with, I'm certain. The jail trust chair. This guy has all the stroke. It appears he has more stroke than you all. So they made that decision again to put it on, to bring this before you all, but his name is not even attached to it. It's in essence the staff. The staff should not be able to come and make that decision. So all I'm asking at this point, just please wait, and then let the trust, let it be put on the agenda. You all don't control that, but I assure you it will get put on the agenda. For this right here, let it be put on the agenda for this request to be made, and then it properly seconded, and a vote is cast, and it is approved for us to then bring it to you all. But until that happens, you all are absolutely not being good stewards of the county's money. the citizens of Oklahoma County's money if you just do what the staff is recommending. Because listen, they don't even know how much they need.
So you're saying if we vote for this, we're not allowing the trust to do their job?
Absolutely. And we keep saying we want the trust to do their job, that we're lousy. We don't have a clue. And I guess at this point, it's like you all don't have a clue, so we're not going to listen to you at all. We're going to listen to the staff. That's told a lie already. I'm sure several.
So you think, I'm just trying to boil down the answers
Yes.
here. So you think it's, at this point, you think it's the trust decision to make determinations about layoffs if they should be necessary, not Mr. Kimry?
Yes, because he's an administrator, not the
Okay.
CEO.
And then, of course, you know, I don't.
And let me, sorry, Commissioner Mott. And then if we're talking about constitutional, we're in hot water. He's just terminated. There's another problem. Oh, and please know that on last week, per the indenture, because the legislature can be involved in this, I did go to Governor Stitt's office and request a meeting with him as it relates to this. Yes, I did. And I have not gotten a response back. Might not get one back, but certainly there's a relationship there where it's not just me walking into his office. Number two, when I left there, after I spoke to an attorney about this, he said, well, sounds like you need to go to Oklahoma State Attorney General Gittner Drummond's office about it. I went there. I could not get into the lobby area, so they gave me a phone number. I've called and left a message there as well. And then the question could be why? Because at this point, nobody can control this trust. Nobody can control this trust. So I'm just crying out to the governor. I'm crying out because we do know that the National Guard could potentially come in. So I'm crying out to the governor to get help, and then the state attorney general to possibly get some help. Because if this deal falls totally apart, because we do have some lawsuits on the table, and we have one on the table, they're going to win. And please know, budget board, you're going to be sunk. Because you do know that we don't settle any lawsuits above hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're certainly not going to settle a lawsuit that's tens of millions of dollars. I believe that it will be a record in the state of Oklahoma. It will be a record judgment. It's coming. And it might be close to a record judgment in the United States. It's coming. So you all have you got a lot more on you than what I think you are fully aware of. I really do. So, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Holman, are you here to speak?
I am, thank you. I think the moves we made in our last meeting clear up any procedural issues going forward. The attorney for the Oklahoma County Criminal Justice Authority does believe that Mr. Kimry operated within his scope. That the indenture does say that the executive director can function as a CEO. But that's not the issue. When we talk about, we've heard this morning about discussions about what the taxpayers want to know, and to the lawsuit that was just referenced, that lawsuit was an event that happened in 2020. And part of what we've tried to do is we've looked at how to run this jail constitutionally, correctly, whatever verbiage you want to select to discuss it, is that we don't leave that kind of legacy going forward. There are 7 lawsuits. All 7 of those talk about understaffing. Understaffing is presented by underfunding. We have seen some preliminary results of the McDaniel Company survey, and jails our size in the United States, nobody is funded at the level we are. We are about 30% light of the average of a 1,500 population detention center. So our thoughts are this: when we talk about what the taxpayers want to know, Every time one of these lawsuits happens, and that goes on the books, that's almost to a taxpayer, not necessarily the expertise that sits around this board, but that goes to the, it becomes interpreted as taxation without representation. We haven't taken care of the money. So we can talk about an issue. We can attack me. That is a very small piece and not the entire story. We have a future to operate our jail properly. We have tremendous amount of evidence that we haven't done that as a county over the years. And we can split that up all we want to. We can debate all these issues. I can't give you an example of what it costs for dentistry. My family's in the dentistry business, so mine's free. So I'm not going to give you some kind of a comparison that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. What we're talking about is running that jail properly in the here and the now, but also with an eye on the future, so that we don't put our county in some kind of mortgage jeopardy. And that is going on. We have 7 lawsuits right now with court dates, and they are concerning. The first one especially, which I think is the one that was just referenced, is very concerning. It could be a whole lot of money. But it was an event that happened 6 years ago. What are we going to leave in the next 6 years if we irresponsibly continue to operate? So I'm not saying that makes any difference, but I do believe if this vote is turned down, that it would be fiscally responsible to begin furloughs or layoffs immediately.
And Chairman, you talked about it being irresponsible. Do you know exactly what the $2 million, over $2 million would be for?
It's,
Have you looked at the books?
it's operations, which is about 65%. By the way, when you look at the comparisons to other jails, we run about 15% below the average jail on terms of percentage of budget that's given to salaries and wages. But it would be substantially to pay the wages of the existing people. And to the point of bringing the National Guard in. Let's say we have the layoffs.
Sir,
Let me finish. And when you do that, just be mindful that that's not free either. We have to pay for them.
Okay, but could you just answer my question? Have you looked at the books and you've made a determination that we need over $2 million in order to fund the jail?
We need more than that. That's just what the BET has approved. So I'm not here advocating that that's all that's needed. We need more than that if we're going to run the jail properly.
And you believe
between now and the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Yes, I do believe that.
Okay, and you believe that the jail has provided all of the answers, all of the
The majority of those questions
Can I-
were
can I-
history lessons.
Okay, can I finish my question, sir? That's all I want to do, okay? Thank you.
Just as long as he gets to finish his answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so do you agree that the jail has provided all of the answers to BET as far as what they have
That
requested?
would be a question for the BET. I don't know.
Okay, further questions, and Mr. Holman?
Thank
You did say you believe that the responsible thing will be for furloughs. Do you have a timing in your
Right.
mind?
The math's pretty simple. If you don't have enough money to make payroll, you can't. I know we're seeing it with the TSA every day. It's on the news every evening. There's a certain percentage of those people that are working for no money. But the ones that are interviewed say, I don't have enough money to buy gas to get to work. I don't have enough money to feed my kids. I see that being exactly what happens with us. These people don't make a whole lot of money, and not everybody in the jail is at that level, but the majority of them are. And if we can't make a paycheck, we're going to have to furlough them. That math is very clear and very simple.
Mr. Holman?
Yes, sir.
Do you by chance know what the breakout is between DOs and administrative staff?
Not off the top of my head. I think I know, but it would be guessing, and I'd rather not do that, Mr. Freeman.
I guess where I'm confused at is I think the jail or the trust since its inception has been funded for 400 employees since the beginning of it, and they have never reached that staffing threshold. And so how do you run out of money for staffing if you've never fully staffed? If you're never fully staffed?
I mean, you're the trustee, I would ask you.
Well,
I mean, as
that's-
trustees, y'all have fiduciary responsibilities to be watching for your own shop.
Well, I
And-
mean, and you can discuss that. We had a vote and we said no, but then it was approved without our knowledge and behind our back. So how much fiduciary responsibility do we have if I feel like through my vote, I made a reasonable, responsible decision based on the current financial picture that was given to me to be good stewards of Oklahoma County tax dollars, and then that's just thrown out the window because it's not what their will was.
Sure.
Sheriff, could I ask you the same question? Do you by chance know what the breakout is between administrative and DO?
No, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this item until we receive a formal request by the Jail Trust Board for funding.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on that? That's been motioned and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Commissioner Lowe, may I have your vote, please, sir? Thank you.
Given that vote, I would assume there's no action needed on the remaining items related to the jail.
And that would be items 40 and 41 and 42 and 43. Is that correct? And 44?
Yep. Take us down to item 45.
Greetings. Number 45 is the discussion and possible action regarding an interfund transfer of our ARPA dollars, special revenue 1415. It's for a ARPA project. This is a sheriff community violence program. It's a motor vehicle passenger program that the funds need to be closed out and reallocated from capital to M&O, so that way they can be redistributed. In the amount of $437.49.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 46 is a transfer of funds from the Oklahoma Department of Health. We received 781 funds in the amount of $266,157. That is the remaining that I billed for FY25. So we were excited to close out that year. And so we just need to transfer these funds that were deposited into 1400 now into the Community Investment Fund, which is 6047. So that way I can be able to cut a PO and deposit these to where they can put them to good use.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Number 47 is a fund transfer from Court Services GPS user fee, which is $1260,302, from Maintenance and Operations to Court Services fee $1260,301. This will allow for me to be able to use those funds for GPS monitoring that is court ordered. They also include a couple transfers of revenue that was brought in from the DA's office that just need to be appropriated into the correct fund.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you.
Just a moment, please. I
yes.
apologize. We're one item behind.
I'm sorry.
And this is for 47.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Okay. Number 48 is a discussion regarding establishing a new fund account for the Behavioral Care Center. It was discussed in our policy and governance meeting last week that we would like to create a fund specific to the Behavioral Care Center so that way we can make sure that we are putting together an estimate of need for the building expenses as well as the professional services expenses with Creoaks. So that way we can make sure that we are keeping a budget of all expenses associated with that building. And so we need to create a fund so that way we can also create an estimate of need to be presented and discussed at BET.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 41, or excuse me, 49, District 3.
Yeah, these are our ETR funds that we're receiving and that we received from, just the ETR funds, I apologize. We applied for $314,000 to be deposited for the drainage structure on Westminster and Waterloo. So I will move the item.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Go ahead.
Okay. Number 50 is a transfer from General Fund Commissioners 120 from salaries to travel. The amount is for $27.18. It's just a small transfer in order to cover travel. It was under budgeted last year. And so just want to make sure that that's taken care of.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkerson.
Items 51 and 52 are just regular transfers of our budgeted funds. This is to put the funds into the employee benefits account. Just ask for your approval.
Motion. Second.
Is that for items 51 and 52?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
53, Madam Clerk.
Yes, this is just a transfer from our general fund benefits into M&O to cover expenses.
I'm going to cover item 54 also.
Yes, same thing, except that's our records preservation.
Is there a motion to approve both items?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then we have a interfund transfer for the engineer.
I do want to point out, you have a updated sheet in front of you. All it is to show the signature for approval that they agreed to, that they're requesting the transfer. There are no other changes on the sheet.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
District 1.
You have Brian Jasper here.
Good morning, members. This would be to appoint myself as second alternate and Brittany Grant as third alternate to the budget evaluation team.
I apologize for interrupting. Can I get Mr. Foster and Mr. Morrison's vote, please, for the last year?
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You have the next item also?
This is a motion to initiate the process to dissolve the trust. Before I bring this motion, I'd like to have Pastor Scobie. I do have a couple of questions for you. Pastor, how long have you served on the trust?
3 years, 6 months, the longest serving non-elected jail trust member, non-elected official jail trust member.
And could you expound on the turnover as far as how many people have come and gone?
Yes. A statement was made about the indenture, about an executive having the decision-making to do that. There is nothing in the indenture that speaks to that. So I would just challenge you all to read that. Nothing. And we continue to just throw things out that's not true. So good things in writing. All right. So bear with me for a moment. Founding members. Tricia Everest. We know who she is. She's Gaylord. We know all that she has done. Assistant Attorney General of the State of Oklahoma. Jim Couch, most experienced municipal administrator in Oklahoma history, overseeing a budget of $1 billion, and he has a little statue, a memorial in his honor down the street. He was on the trust. Kevin Calvey, P.D. Taylor, Danny Honeycutt. Any of y'all know Danny Honeycutt?
Yes.
I've personally never heard of him in my life. He was on the jail trust.
He was the designee under the sheriff.
Gotcha. I can never pronounce Francie's last name, Francie. Ben Brown, former Oklahoma State Senator, long career. My apologies, may I approach?
Sure.
This is right here, isn't it?
Looks like it. Thank you.
Motion to receive these documents.
Todd Lamb, former Lieutenant Governor, State of Oklahoma, highest profile political figure to serve on the trust. He could have been voted off because he had missed so many meetings, but he was not. M.T. Berry, former chief of police. I love him. Pretty much everybody in Oklahoma City loves him. He served. Sue Ann Arnall, philanthropist, founder of Arnall Family Foundation, one of the most prominent civic giving organizations, part of that trust. Sheriff Tommy Johnson, our beloved Sheriff Tommy Johnson. Joe Albaugh, one of the most distinguished public servants ever to serve on the trust. He served as the director of FEMA under President George W. Bush, director of the Department of Corrections, campaign manager for Governor George W. Bush's 2000 presidential campaign. He was on the trust twice. Chad Alexander, former chairman of the Oklahoma Republican Party, political consultant, radio host. Loretta Radford, attorney and law professor. Adam Luck, former chairman of the Oklahoma Pardon and Parole Board. Everyone was absolutely ecstatic when he was appointed, and phenomenal person, brilliant. Myself, Miles Davison, Steve Buck, one of the smartest guys I ever met in my life, honest to goodness. President and CEO of Care Providers of Oklahoma and so many other things. Major General retired Michael Thompson. I'm sure y'all all know him. Did y'all know he served on the trust? I think he came to one meeting and he said, I'm done. That was it. James Johnson, very nice, kind person, community leader and civic servant. Shelley Perkins, attorney, community advocate, distinguished career spanning politics, estate planning, probate law, nonprofit law. She kept asking a lot of questions she could never get any answers as well. A.J. Griffin, former Republican state senator from Guthrie, Oklahoma, CEO of the Potts Family Foundation. Melissa Markle, she understood budgets. She would continue to ask for certain financial information to be brought to the trust meeting. I mean, over and over. And she would light into the CEO administrator, light into them. They still wouldn't bring it. Jim Holman, Ashley Robinson, Brad Hawley. And then our former CEOs, jail administrators, Greg Williams, Brandy Garner, Paul Timmons, interim CEO, and then Tim Kimmery, jail administrator, not CEO. Average length of time on the trust, 26 months. Also, everyone resigned from the jail trust. There has not been anyone that has fulfilled their term. No, I was going to say Sue Ann. She didn't. Everyone everyone has resigned.
How long is
Um,
the term, Pastor?
yes,
How long is the term?
4. I thought it was 4. 6?
I think they're 6 years.
Oh,
6-year term.
okay, okay, thank you. I get to serve another 2 years if Commissioner Lowe says so. 2.5. But if the Lord let me live. So so no one has, I mean, Sheriff Tommy Johnson, I mean, obviously he's an elected official. A lot of people say Miles Davidson. It was Kevin Calvey and then Miles Davidson. So obviously, if Sheriff Johnson was not in the seat of sheriff, he wouldn't be on here. But I'm glad he is. So average term, 26 months. Yes, thank you for asking the question, Commissioner Law. So Major General retired Michael Thompson. He departed after just 2 meetings. I don't remember him being here for 2 meetings, but 2 meetings. Ashley Robinson, Brad Hawley still serving. Adam Luck departed after 5 months. Danny Honeycutt, sheriff's designee, but he was gone 6 months. Jim Holman still in that position. Loretta Radford, she departed after 10 months. Melissa Marcos, she departed after 11 months. P.D. Taylor, we know that situation. A.J. Griffin departed after 1 year, 3 months. Shelley Perkins departed after 1 year, 7 months. Trisha Everest, 1 year, 11 months. James Johnson still serving. Francie, 2 years, 4 months, departed. Todd Lamb, 2 years, 4 months. I don't think he was here. That would be 28 times. I think he was here maybe 12 meetings. Chad Alexander departed after 2 years, 8 months. Joe Alba, 2 years, 10 months. Then, departed both stints. Those are combined. Jim Couch, again, has a statue right down the street. 3 years, 6 months, he was gone. Kevin Calvey, we understand that. Chief M.T. Berry, 3 years, 11 months. Ben Brown, 4 years. Sue Ann, 4 years, 8 months. Sheriff Johnson, still obviously here. What does this tell us? Average Oklahoma County Jail Trust trustee lasts barely 26 months. A retired 2-star Army general lasted 2 months. Former FEMA director served twice and still couldn't fix it. A member of the legendary Gaylord family, one of the most accomplished civic leaders, left after less than 2 years. The last founding member resigned in protest after nearly 5 years of unheeded pleas for change. So today, commissioners, because commissioners are the ones that appoint, they struggle to find anyone willing to volunteer for the trust at all. You probably can't find anybody qualified. The jail trust experience has run its course. The data's in. The verdict is crystal clear. It's time to move away from this failed model. It's failed, guys, lady and gentlemen. Oklahoma County deserves accountability that only elected officials answerable to voters can provide, not a volunteer board left holding a crisis. A crisis. So, final word: the 26 individuals who served on the Oklahoma County Jail Trust represent an extraordinary cross-section of Oklahoma leadership. Again, FEMA director, major general, lieutenant governor, state senators, police chief, city manager, philanthropists, clergy, attorneys, educators, advocates, 4 administrators we hired, including a career corrections professional and a highway patrolman. Out of the 26 who served, a dedicated few remain, continue to show up despite the weight of a structurally broken institution. Our perseverance I believe, is commendable. I'll say all of them. But no amount of dedication from a volunteer board can substitute for the governmental will and authority that only elected officials can provide. I would like to ask the budget board to move forward in asking for the Oklahoma County Commissioners to ask for the Oklahoma County Jail Trust to disband. God, it's over. It's over.
Pastor, do you believe that any changes to the indenture whatsoever would change anything? And if not, why not?
The only thing that could possibly, if there was something in the indenture, here's what is awful. How you all have no say, none, of what we do. None. I could stand and say, what's that little kid say, nah, 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 nah. I can do nothing you could do. Nothing the county commissioners can do. Nothing. You would not get one, well, you would get some residents of Oklahoma County to believe. The great majority, the vast majority would never in a million years believe you all had no control over us. Listen, that is horrible. Me as a pastor of a church, I would not want not to have trustees and deacons that can speak into what I do and at times tell me. I mean, at some point, to tell me what to do. Now, we as, I don't know, especially as men, Ms. Hudson, we as men, we're crazy and we don't want nobody telling us what to do. That's ridiculous. We need accountability from, and we don't have it. So the indenture, in essence, states there's none. We have to, I know I'm preaching to the choir. We have to have a unanimous vote to disband. Then it has to go to the county commissioners. And I'm not going to stand here and say what's in the indenture like others will say that it gives authority for the administrator to make those kind of decisions. It says nothing like that in the indenture. But I think there may be something about the legislature or the governor has to sign off on it, maybe. But let's just throw that out the window, because if you all said that you want this trust to disband, and then the county commissioners said they wanted to disband, and then it skipped over and we didn't vote, we didn't have a unanimous vote, from what I see, the legislature can move in and make sure it disbands. So I think it's just over. I know it's over. Please tell me someone else. If those people could not lead this trust and make a change, please tell me who else can. I mean, really, that's a real question. Haven't been able to. I have been fighting. Somebody asked me the other day, aren't you ready to quit? I just said, I just have this moxie inside of me that won't let me quit. I stood up here and said I got my daddy in me, and it's just not going to let me quit. So I ask that you all make a motion that's properly seconded and is voted on and approved to ask the county commissioners to ask for the trust to disband. And this is what I believe. I believe that if it gets all the way down to us as a trust, we will vote to disband, and there will be one vote, there will be one no vote. And I'm not going to say who, but there's a lapdog on the trust, and that person, it might be two. It may be two. And I would just respectfully ask Sheriff Johnson, because he's so respectful, and he would probably just sit back and wait because he doesn't want anybody to think that he's trying to take the jail over. I would just ask, if it gets down to that you would vote to disband. And you understand what I mean. That's not a disrespect. That's this thing of you not wanting anybody to think you're trying to take over. And you know that if you abstain, then we still are at square one. So we need to disband.
You mentioned several that had left. Some left because they had other jobs. And when Sue Ann Arnault left, she left with a pretty loud voice and saying that one of her frustrations was that we didn't fund the jail trust enough. So Tricia Everest was asked to join the governor's cabinet, and it was inappropriate to serve in two positions. I just want to point out they didn't necessarily just throw in the towel. Some of them received other jobs.
All due respect, Commissioner Mon, I hear you, but they left, and I pastor full-time a church. I'm a community leader, and I have to get all these emails, messages, phone calls relating. I mentioned this before, relating to the Oklahoma County Detention Center, asking me to do this, that, or the other. And I will say, every time I do ask the leadership there, they make it happen. But the people shouldn't have to reach out to me in order to make it happen. I have a thriving business. Family first. I have all these things, and I have remained. I sleep about 5 hours a night. So I understand about some, they had to leave, but
I just want to thank them for their service. I don't
Absolutely.
want to disparage anybody who's served on their volunteer capacity. None of you, and I've thanked you also, have served, without any compensation as the citizens on the board.
And my apologies, because some will watch this, and even if they don't, these that are here, my apologies if I've come off in any way, shape, or form to speak disparagingly against anyone. I think the only one it might have sounded like that with was former Lieutenant Governor Lamb, but I'm sure the guy was just busy and he couldn't get here. But people the trust understood they didn't vote him off. So, but everyone else, including him, I'm not speaking disparagingly. I'm just saying everybody quit. That's all. I quit 9th grade football. I did, and it was horrible. I still regret it, Sheriff Johnson. But that's just my request. Okay, I'm sorry. Any other?
No other questions for me? Any questions? And I have to say, there's been some great people that have served on the trust. I think that's everyone would agree on that. But at the end of the day, the trust has been a failed experiment. $5 million deficits, over 60 deaths, unilateral pay raises. Enough is enough. The trust needs to dissolve. So I am going to bring forth a motion to initiate the process to dissolve the jail trust. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, we need to return to the engineers item.
This is in support of our in-house asbestos crew, moving money from one category to the salary category to pay those salaries. They've been pretty active lately. They're working in the garage downstairs, and they're working on the 3rd floor. So when they're active like that, it's quite a bit of payroll. And about every couple of years we do this.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any other citizens to speak? Board comment, Sheriff?
No comment.
None.
No comments.
I have none. Nothing. Again, thank you, Mr. Scobie, for your comments. Thank you very much.
Is there a motion to adjourn? So move. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.